Hi, everybody. Happy Saturday. Welcome to another episode of Lifted Voices with Fifi. Today it's a bonus episode, I guess. I usually don't do anything on weekends, but I'm trying. I'm trying to do more things as often as I can. Life has been busy, and I'm hoping everybody had a good week. I had a very long week, but a very fruitful one. I've done a lot of amazing stuff at work. I'm so proud with some achievements I made at work this week. But I was so tired, and I decided to just do nothing today. But again, today I thought, oh, let me do something because today is my dad's birthday. So it's my father's birthday, and on a day like this, I like to reflect. I usually spend it alone. I went for mass in the morning. I offered mass for his soul. And then I just spent a lot of time at home doing nothing, just reflecting on life. And because today was my lazy day, I thought, oh, why not do some reflection, sharing my reflections here about life, loss, growth, and the journey that shapes me to become who I am today. So growing up without parents sort of changes how you understand the world. It teaches you at a very early stage of life that life is not everything that we predict is going to be. And sometimes you just have to learn strength before you even understand what strength really means, and that is what it's like growing up as an orphan. Really, I know I grew up around amazing people. I was brought up by amazing people. So but it's just different as an orphan and as someone, well, it's just different. It's something that you can't really explain. And and just being an orphan really isn't about just losing a parent. It's also about learning how to move through life without having that security a child should have. And something that a lot of people do grow up with. It's like your life is just different how you go through your day-to-day life really, and not having that sort of day-to-day guidance that you should have as a child, that sort of warmth you have as a child growing up, and it's just different. It's so different. And I feel like there were seasons in my life where I asked many questions, like any orphan would really. Will I make it? Will my dreams come true? And can someone who started with so many disadvantages still build a meaningful life? I always thought, and I still think about it, like how far I've come, because I always grew up with these questions like, what is of my future? How far do I have to go? And am I able to reach my fullest potential like everybody else? But in life, things are just unpredictable for everybody. But those are the questions I grew up with. And over the time, I started to understand that I started understanding something just so powerful that walking with Jesus, it does not mean that life becomes easy. It just means that you are never walking alone. That is so important. And faith becomes like an anchor that sort of holds you together, especially when you're journeying through uncertain seasons. So, where I felt like doors were closed, when opportunity felt like they were just too far away from me, and when I feel like there were a lot of times where I just felt like grief was too heavy because I'm not someone who's good at expressing my emotions. And I grew up just not talking about the subject. It's something that I just avoided throughout my childhood into my adulthood. I just ignored the facts of how life has been, or I don't feel like I've ever grieved my parents because I lost them at a very young age. So I just grew up like, okay, they never existed and they're not here. because I didn't know how to go on with life, and it's something that I actually still don't know how to feel about because I feel like I've learned to close my feelings to myself, and that's why I'm so grateful for people like my grandmother. My grandmother was like my confidante, someone I would tell everything, someone who would walk through emotions with me. And I think that's what overshadowed a lot of things that I could have felt not having my parents around growing up because she just filled that void. So, you know, I feel like I feel like most part of my life, there were times where I felt like the grief was so heavy, especially when I was facing challenge. You know, I lived in ministry for so long, and you face so many diversities, especially when you're in ministry. And I always used to feel like maybe I deserve to be treated this way. Maybe I deserve to be in such situation. Maybe I deserve to be in a disadvantage because I don't have parents. Maybe this is how I should be treated. And I learned that God does not really measure our future based on our starting point or where we came from. So that's why I felt like leaning on God was the only thing that I had because I didn't, I just couldn't see things any other way. And many people actually believe that success depends on the perfect beginnings, perfect families, perfect resources. And I also believe the same because I'm like, if you come from a certain background or things, certain disadvantages, you can do better. But life, personally, my life has shown me that our purpose is not determined by what you start with, but by what you choose to become with, despite where you start from. And this is something that I use quite a lot, especially when I speak to young people or when I speak to other children who are orphans, especially because I tell them because a lot of time they talk about the disadvantages they have. That's why they don't have certain opportunities. And I always try to use my life as a way of reflection of look, how far I've come, how much I've achieved. Well, hopefully, I've achieved something in life. And I use that as a way of look at how far I've come. I lost my parents as a child, but I feel like that I use that as a drive to achieve something, to do better. And that is something that I want to tell to all the young people, especially those who lost their parents at a young age, that there is so much more when you lean on Jesus, when you allow Jesus to just take the wheel. And I also learned that positivity is not about pretending that pain does not exist. It surely does. It surely does. True positivity is actually it is choosing hope even when life feels like it's not giving you a reason to feel encouraged. You're just feeling discouraged. And it is like waking up each day and deciding, okay, but today my circumstance will not control my vision. And it is about believing that difficult chapters are still part of a meaningful story. And I truly believe that my life today is shaped by the experiences that I've gone through, especially the difficult parts of it. I feel like that's what gave me a purpose. That's what gave me a drive to do so much more, to do better, and to want to become a better version of myself so that other young people who've been in my world, who are coming after me and who are going through the same thing that I've gone through, they have somewhere or someone to look up to and say, look, if she has done it, if she has made it through, I'm going to. This is why I pushed beyond. Someone asked me recently, well, I don't know if I should share this really, but I applied for my PhD. And someone was asking me, Phyllis, are you not overdoing it? You've got a really good job, you work for a good company, you are doing all of these things, and now you just finished your second postgrad, and you're also now like going for your PhD. Why? And I said one thing. There's so many young people, so many orphans who look up to me. And I have to be that example. It's not because I want to do all these things, but I feel like I have someone whom I have to light up the torch for. And they're going to use that torch to also follow in that darkness they're walking through. So for me, I have my life has a purpose, and God made sure that things happened the way they happened so that I could be that light to someone else. And I'm not saying I'm grateful that I lost my parents at a young age, but God planned it perfectly for me so that He can use that for making a difference to someone else. And when I look back now, I realized that some of the very struggle that I once thought they were unfair, they actually built a lot of resilience in me. Like, I don't know how. I don't even want to dwell on that, but I feel like it built resilience that I needed later, that I'm using now. It was built through those difficulties that I've gone through growing up as a child, as an orphan, really. And it has taught me discipline. I am a very disciplined child. Yeah, how I navigate life. He has taught me empathy. Why? Because I know what it feels to feel alone, to feel like the whole world is, you're all alone in this billions and billions of people in the world. So he has taught me empathy, it has taught me discipline, and he has taught me how to understand the pain of others. And what is even more important, he has taught me to depend on God in ways that I might have never have learned if everything was easy in my life. So that's why I say, you know what, I'm not saying I'm grateful that things happened the way they happened, but I feel like everything has a purpose, and God made everything with a purpose, really made sure that my life was a certain way and took certain things off me for a reason. And I feel like sometimes we ask God, remove the challenges, but sometimes those challenges are preparing us for an assignment that requires strength. And if you are listening today, hopefully two of you who are here who are listening today, and if you feel like your journey has been harder than than others, I just want to encourage you. Your story is not delayed, and your story is being prepared. And walking with Jesus means trusting that even when you do not fully understand the path that you're in, God still is the destination. That is always the most important thing, and that is something that I always share whenever I get a chance to share that. Always make God your destination, because then everything else just comes in place and it just aligns together so perfectly. And that is something that I learned through my life. And there were moments in my life actually where I could not see how things would work out, which is quite the majority of my life, really, where I had hope and I knew God can make things work, but there were times where I just wonder how would everything work out. But I think as I grow in faith, like I said, challenges that I faced in life sort of really built that resilience that helped me to see things step by steps. And when doors start opening and opportunities start appearing and people just came into life at the right time, I feel like God just built those people. Like I have amazing people anchoring me in my life, who keeps me going. And I'm so grateful to God for that, because I feel like God just made everything so perfect. Even though when life can be difficult at times, He just had and has right people at the right time in my life. And it helped me to begin to understand that our progress is not always dramatic, but sometimes it is quiet and it is steady, and I'm grateful for that. I don't want something to be rushed when it's wrong, and that's why I'm so grateful for each season that really builds me, that has built me up to this season that I'm in today. And another lesson that I learned is that your background may influence your life, but it does not have to limit your life. Yes, you've lost your parents. Yes, you come from a village where there is nothing. You have no money for education. You have no money for anything. You're struggling with your faith. You're struggling with your family life. You're struggling with, I don't know, whatever you're facing through your background shouldn't, you know, it can influence our lives, but it shouldn't be what limits you. And many people grow up believing that they lack certain advantages in life and their dream must be, you know, just be shrunk, automatically become smaller. But I believe that God places purpose instead of, He places purpose inside of each of us. Well, I don't have my Bible right next to me, but I have um my Bible verse. I have a Bible verse in front of my Bible cover. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. I just feel like I want to remind myself of that purpose that God has for me in my life every time I look on my Bible, despite whether I opened it or not. And it's right next to my bedside where I know exactly that God has something for me and God has planned for me and God has build me up to become something. I'm not just here to exist, to live and die, but in this short time that we all have in today's world, I feel like God has something laid out and built up for me, and I have a purpose to that. And I want to live that regardless of what is my background, what limitations that I have. I want to make sure that I live to the fullest potential that God has for me. And your environment sometimes may shape your experience, which is quite normal, and I've seen this. We don't want to disregard that, but it does not have the authority to define your future. You should know that. And there were moments when I had to encourage myself. This happens often. There are times where I have to encourage myself, but I do that every day. I have to put myself, where I have to encourage myself. Moments where I feel like the external support was limited, and in those moments, prayer became my strength. I learned that when people do not fully understand your struggles, God understands every silent prayer, every hidden tear, and every hope you carry in your heart. And especially being an orphan, that can be an advantage. If you read in the book of Psalms, in the book of Sirach, in the book of Proverbs, the Lord really highlights a lot about the importance of an orphan, of a widow. Like you have a special place in his heart. And when you cry, he listens. He cannot turn away from your tears. And I use that to my advantage all the time. Every time I'm so stressed out about something, or life is put me, or I face challenges, or I feel like people, the world, they're really giving me a hard time. I always cry and say, "Do you know what? My father told me that when I cry, he cannot turn away from my tears. So I'm a crybaby because I know that God loves me the most, and when my tears comes out, he can't just turn away from them. So I use them like a child I am. But every prayer when you face struggle and people will never understand. I don't think personally with me, I don't think it's because I'm an orphan that I feel like sometimes people don't understand me. I'm just a difficult creature to understand in general. But I feel like when you go into prayer room and just spend time with God and just offer yourself to him, tell him, talk to him like a friend, everything, I feel like everything just works out, you know. And I feel like he sort of restores hope in my heart. And especially today when I remember my father, it also reminds me that life is precious and time is very valuable. Because imagine my father died at a very young age. He was like, what, 25 or 29, somewhere there. Yeah, so life and time is very precious and valuable. We should utilize the small time we have on earth and we should live it to the fullest. Be the happiest. Be grateful to God for where you are. Despite the challenges, be grateful where you are. Not many has come to see. Some people will be happy to be alive and live in that difficult life you're living in. So we should be grateful to God. We do not always choose how our story begins, but we always have at least the opportunity to choose how we continue writing it. And each decision we make to grow, to learn, and to forgive, to keep trying, becomes like the part of story that we are building today. So I want to speak especially to anyone listening today. If there is anybody listening who feels disadvantaged, who feels overlooked, or they are uncertain about about their future. If you are uncertain about your future, sometimes life can make you feel like as if you must work twice as hard just to reach the same opportunities as others. And sometimes may feel like the road is no longer the same for you. And it's even longer, everybody else's road, it feels narrow, straight, and very straightforward, and yours feels just so long. But I want you to remember that s- I want you to remember something that is important is that resilience creates strength that cannot be taught in any comfortable situation. You have to be in that situation for you to learn that resilient and for you to become the strong person you are today. It is because of those challenges. And people who rise through challenges, they also often um, develop courage, creativity, and perseverance that later becomes such a powerful tool in leadership and in life because you've gone through it all. So you can help other people around you in your community, in your family, or in your work environment because why? You've gone through the furnace of difficulties. And when especially when walking with Jesus also teaches you patience. Not everything happened at the time we expected, but sometimes we pray for quick breakthrough, which is something that every human really expect. If I pray for something, and we always, one thing I found out is we always pray for something when we're in desperate and in need of that. We have not learned to pray for things over the period of time so that things can develop at a certain pace. So I think that sometimes Jesus just wants to teach us patience, and everything will not come as we expect, and especially at the time we expect it to come. So a quick breakthrough might not be an always a result, and that's what leads to a lot of us to be in disappointment because we expect things to happen so quick and give us a quick result, but everything happens just to shape our characters so much more as to the outcome that we want. And in the waiting season, we can feel uncomfortable. I know this because I think that was like the worst season I went through in my waiting season. But then it often prepare us for responsibilities when of what we are not ready to carry. Because sometimes we cry for things, and when they come, we realize this is a lot, Lord. I don't think I can carry it. That's when we start backing up on the things that we prayed for, the things that we asked the Lord, because we were not prepared. So some things works because we need to build ourselves first so that we are able to carry the responsibilities of what God has to give us. So that's why I'm grateful for the season and the time for growth and strength that I have previously before jumping into this season of responsibilities. And another thing that I learned is that gratitude changed perspectives. That's why I've been so grateful to the Lord, especially in the past year. Just live the entire year in gratitude. I'm so grateful for the life lessons. You know, I went through something so that could have broke me completely, which I think it not break me completely, but it broke me. I went through a season where I was so broken, I was so hurt. It was a dark season for me, but I felt like that I used that as a lesson to be grateful. And when I was grateful, I started seeing everything that happened as a positive. And I know it's funny when the worst, like, it does not change what happened, but it makes you look at what happened and say, oh, I should thank that person for that because then I wouldn't have become this person. Oh, I should thank this person because, like, especially like I could thank God for an example of what happened with me previously. I could thank God is the reason why I feel like I managed to do my studies. I managed to get my job that I'm in NGOs. I managed to start all these charities that I've been doing and everything. It's because of what I went through that gave me the strength and the vision to do that. So if I didn't go through this and if this door did not close, I would not have the opportunity to be the person who I am today. So some difficulties, some challenges that we face is they all have a reason, they all carry a responsibility. And when you come into that responsibility, you understand why everything start making sense, why everything happened. And then you become so grateful to whatever that reason that has led you into that. So I've learned so much and I feel like I've had the ability to grow and and like I said, gratitude does not mean that it's the difficulties have gone, but it just gives us a reason to not cancel our blessings. We still continue to counting our blessings on how God has blessed us. And first of all, the gift of life itself. That is a biggest blessing that sometimes our challenges help us to overlook what God wants out of us. And today I just want to reflect again on gratitude. I just want to thank God for every milestone that I've reached in life, the impact that I have, hopefully, I had on people in my community, and those around me, and those that I meet. And every opportunity to serve it becomes a reminder that even become some beginnings marked by loss can grow into a journey filled with a purpose. So I also want to remind you today that your goals are still possible, even when the path looks so difficult and different. And success does not mean that you follow a straight line. Sometimes it's just a series of small steps of learning, of growing, of trying, and of just improving again and again, despite any setbacks that we face, and just continuing to progress. And even though when everything just feels so slow, and we continue to strive, we continue to hold on to Jesus. Like that woman who held on at the hem of the garment of Jesus. We need to just continue. This is one thing that I love about challenges is it makes you hold on to Jesus so much because you know alone with your own strength you can't do it. And and I feel like there is that power of refusing to give up on yourself. And there is also power of believing that your life contributes something that is meaningful to this world. And there is a greater power really in just trusting that God can turn difficulties uh, into such powerful testimonies because I feel like I'm a living testimony. I have a powerful testimony, and I feel like my entire life alone is just this one big testimony that no matter the challenges, no matter the difficulties, I cannot stop thanking God because He has shaped my life into this one gigantic testimony. And so, if you are currently walking through any difficult seasons, I want you to know this: the chapter you are now in is not the final chapter. Life is just unfolding. And many of us, our greatest opportunities appears in seasons one in such seasons. And once we've gone through certain setbacks and keep on learning and keep on preparing and keep on believing that your time will come, then it will come. So, walking with Jesus is not only about the faith during the good times, it's about the faith that remains steady, especially even when the road feels uncertain, when you feel like Lord, I don't know how I'm going to do this. That's when our faith start coming into place, start working, because we're trusting in every step forward that God will make sure that our path are aligned, our steps will keep on walking despite what we're facing. And sometimes that's what you just need to move forward into your victory. That's all you need, those little steps. And as I come to a close today, I think I'll keep it short today. I was actually going to do only 10 minutes. How much the shocked it's what? Half an hour. Yeah, so I think I'm just gonna wind this up. I just want to leave you with encouragement. So no matter how your story has begun, you still have the power to build a meaningful future. Your dreams are still valid, your goals are still reachable, your purpose is still alive. And even when life feels heavy, remember that you're not walking through this journey alone. Believe me, um, I feel like reflecting on today at the end of my day. Today, I've been reflecting, especially on today, as it is my dad's, remembering my dad. I choose hope, I choose faith, and I choose to keep on moving forward with gratitude for every lesson that shaped my path. And I encourage you today to do the same, because if you keep walking, if you keep believing and keep trusting that God is still writing a beautiful story through your life, then God will continue writing that perfect story that you will sit back at the end of your life and think, oh, wow, magnificent. What a beautiful life story that was, you know? And that's how life should be, and that's how life is when we continue to hold on it at the garment of the Lord. And I just want to thank you all who have joined me today on Lifted Voices with Fifi. Thank you so much. Until next time, stay encouraged, stay hopeful, and keep lifting voices. Until we meet again, good night. Bye.